when I was a boy, a few hundred years ago, you would put bees in a box, go away, come back in 6 months, and you would have a booming hive and lots of honey, because there were not a lot of parasites that you had to worry about. When I just had my bees and my neighbor's bees and mine probably had the same pathogens or the same parasites or the same viruses. And if that was going to spread, it would spread slowly from my bees to the wild bees up the road, from the wild bees to more wild bees, from those bees to your bees and your hives. And that might take 4 seasons, 5 seasons. Now I can spread any new pathogen from Arizona to Washington State all the way back to the Midwest in 1 season. Because if I get infected bees in one place, I'm moving them down the road every week and a half to 2 weeks. So unfortunately, it's a very efficient vector for pathogens of all sorts.
So if you have about 40% natural habitat surrounding a farm, then you probably will have enough wild bees to pollinate a lot of different types of crops. Whereas if you're in an area surrounded just by agriculture with no natural habitat, then you will need to bring in a lot more bees for pollination if you have something that's mass flowering or pollinator dependent. I mean, so much of our food is dependent on pollination. 1 in 3 bites, as they say, comes from a plant that's been pollinated.
And people say, well, what are we going to do when we don't have honeybees, or we have less of them, or they cost too much for us to actually incorporate them into our agricultural farming plan? So people started saying, well, what about these native bees? What do they do? So that's where our work comes in, and work a few other laboratories around the country, looking at the potential for using native bees as pollinators. Native bees have their own problems. They have their own natural enemies, and we study those as well. So bees are not free of predators, parasites, and even bacteria and fungus organisms, and also viruses. All these organisms have natural enemies. It's just a matter that they're still able to deal with them.
It now takes a lot of effort to keep the bees healthy. So I think we'll continue to have bees in the Bay Area. I think we'll continue to have beekeepers, but it's going to take more and more effort to maintain the same number of bees. Within the last month, they have announced a new parasite for bees. It's a new strain of varroa mite that before were only interested in Asian bees and not in European bees. Well, they are now interested in European honeybees. And so this will be yet another thing to have to study and to overcome. But I think bees will continue to be on the landscape in the area. But I think it's going to continue to take more and more effort to maintain the same number of bees.